Okay, everybody, I know what you're thinking. Paul, what's with the outfit? I mean, really? Well, today's wardrobe is brought to you by Bad Time Management. It's as simple as that. Now, it's kind of cold here in Florida. I have the heat on in my home. But I was actually out doing some yard work, and then I looked at my watch and I realized, oh my gosh, if I'm going to get this lesson done in time, I got to start now. So I threw on the baseball cap, t-shirt, microphone. There you go. Well, hello everybody. Welcome back into the Colored Gemstone Academy. I am your instructor, Paul Deasy, and this is my YouTube channel called Paul Deasy Gemstones. At the time of this taping, it is about January 8th, 2021, and I'm closing in on 750 subscribers. So I want to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed. I really do appreciate that. And if you have not yet done so, please hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a penny. And if you want to hit that bell, you'll be notified when all of my new lessons will drop. My goal is to become the biggest classroom of free lessons in gemstones on YouTube. So help me out. All right. So like all of my lessons nowadays, I want to start with some questions and comments. So the first one comes from Joe I. I don't give everybody's last name. I just give the last initial. He asked a question about gold-related quartz. Now they do have a relationship, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. But first I wanted to say I wasn't really sure what you were asking, because there is a gemstone called gold in quartz that is pretty prominent in Alaska, where they find specimens of quartz with gold running through it. And then actually, ironically, Martin W. asked a very similar question, and he said, there's a saying that says, where you find quartz, you will find gold. And he was asking, is that true? Well, I answered him, and I'm going to share that answer with all of you. That is a saying. People do say that in the gem business. In fact, when Judy and I were in the now closed number 8 mine in northern Nevada, Eureka County, that was closed down as a turquoise mine almost 40 years ago because they were mining gold there, and they kicked the turquoise miners out. And all over there we see a lot of rock sediment all over the place, but you see an awful lot of quartz. So you can see in vein-rich areas of quartz, sometimes you will find gold. But I want to caution you on that if you're planning on becoming a prospector, because quartz is one of the most plentiful gemstones on planet Earth. It's found on every single continent, and it's very prominent in the Earth's crust. Gold is one of the most limited precious metals, so there's not a lot of it around. So obviously there can't be gold everywhere there is quartz, but it is used as an indicator sometimes. But prospectors have also said that they've been in very rich veins of quartz and found no gold whatsoever. But it really can be found, and it does have a relationship in that. Now, Martin also asked, what is the best gem book that you use, perhaps as your Bible? I remember when I was very new at this, 30 some years ago, there's a book I really loved called Simon & Schuster's Guide to Gems and Precious Stones. And we had some water in our basement one time, and I lost that book. I didn't really feel the need to replace it, but a couple of them are my favorites. This one is called Eyewitness Handbooks, and it's Gemstones by Callie Hall. And it goes through a lot of the different gems and precious stones, and a lot of pictures in there, and I like that. One of my absolute favorites was something called Gem Profiles, and this is actually the sequel, Gem Profiles 2, but there's a Gem Profiles that was done by David Fetterman, and I forget who did the photography, Tino Hammond. I love this book. It has great stories about gemstones. It has great pictures, great photography about it. So that one is another one that I used when I was learning before I even took my first classes with the GIA. And then, of course, a literary tour de force is Colored Gemstones by Paul Deasy. This is my book. We don't have very many of these in print, but if you want one of the few that we have in print, you can send me a comment, and I can give you a link where you can either get the ebook, but if you want to get it in the hard copy, the coffee table book, it's only available in the US, and you would have to either pay by PayPal or Venmo, or send me a check. And I can give you all that information if you're interested. Otherwise, the ebooks, I can send you a link. And the ebooks are only $8.99 for my Opal book and $9.99 for this book. But I do have this on a special, 2021 special for $17. This was normally, I think, $39.95. So $17 for the book, or $11 for the Opal book, if you want those. So that's all of the rest of the commercial. But Martin W. also says, can you do a lesson on Ametrine? And that's exactly what this lesson is about. And it is one of the most fascinating gemstones in the world. Okay, as promised, this lesson is going to be all about a gemstone called Ametrine. Now, what is Ametrine? Well, actually, as the name sort of implies, it's a combination of the color of an amethyst and a citrine. Now again, they are exactly the same gemstone. They are part of the quartz family of gemstones, and they are mined in many of the same areas. And sometimes, and this happened probably in the 1970s, they discovered it in Brazil, and they found a combination in a geode of purple and yellow. And they called it Ametrine. And at that point, it was all completely natural, and there was never any treatments done on that. And then they discovered it in a much larger fashion in the neighboring country of Bolivia. And if you can see where Bolivia is on the map, it is just to the west of the border of Brazil. And so, as I said in other lessons, gemstones don't really know borders. So there may be a vein that goes from Brazil into Bolivia and other countries, like we said, the United States into Mexico. And so that's why they reside in both countries. The gem doesn't know that there's a border. But it became a big deal. And they discovered this, as I said, first in the 70s in Brazil, and then larger quantities perhaps in Brazil. And it became a big deal. And back then they had, that gem was trading for about between $6 and $30 per carat. I mean, it really, I have a couple of examples to show you. This is from Judy's personal collection. Judy Kroll is my wife. This is a big piece that she had in a teardrop shape. And you can see as I move that, you see some of it's yellow, some of it's purple. This is not a color change stone. This actually has both of those colors inside of that stone. Here's another smaller example showing a little bit more of an east-west sort of look of that yellow citrine and that, oh, that's a great look there, in the purple quartz. And just as an aside, before I even met Judy Kroll, when I was selling gemstones at HSN, she was actually going to a mine in Bolivia. I'll show you some pictures, but also this is a video that she released on QVC saying, "Where is Bolivia?" And in that you can see with her crew and the places and the pictures that they visited, and very difficult to get to. That was, I think, that show was 1997. So I was just leaving QVC to go to, leaving HSN to go to QVC, and little did I know I was about to meet my future wife. But anyway, I hope you enjoy those pictures of her trip down to Bolivia. But I'm going to do that boring part that I talked, that's very necessary, talking about the physical, chemical, and optical properties of Ametrine. Now, as you might have guessed, just like amethyst and just like citrine, it's going to be a chemical composition of silicon dioxide. And just like all quartz, and especially amethyst and citrine, is going to be a crystal structure that is trigonal. Now, these all become important because when you're evaluating what is a gemstone, you need to know that these are some of the ways that you test for what a gemstone is, its chemical composition and its crystal structure. So the hardness, again, that's the ability for one gem to scratch another gem, is 7 on the Mohs scale of hardness. So that's pretty good. It's good for pretty much everyday wear. Then its toughness rating. Now remember, toughness is different than hardness. Hardness is scratching. Toughness means its ability to withstand cracking and chipping. And this is rated good on the toughness scale. So again, a great all-around gemstone, like almost all quartz, to wear. The Refractive index, that's the ability for a gem to exhibit sparkle. And we know that diamonds are really among the highest at 2.42 on that refractive index. Well, in the case of the ametrine, just like all other quartz, it's about 1.54 to 1.55 on the refractive index. And then we get into the specific gravity. Now, what is the specific gravity? That's the density of that gem, or what we call the heft. Not all gems are created equally in the heft. If you pick up something like a shell, like an abalone, it has a very low specific gravity, or amber has a specific gravity of just over 1, whereas sapphire would have a specific gravity of 4. That means 4 times as heavy as amber would be, and that means that it would be a smaller, if you had a 1 carat of amber, that would be much bigger than the 1 carat of the sapphire because of their different specific gravities. So it's 2.65 on your all your quartz, but especially the ametrine that we're talking about today, so you know. Treatments, yes, there are treatments on, I should say now there are treatments on ametrine, which we didn't know about in the past, and I'll get to that in a little bit. What are the main sources? Well, as I mentioned, it's Bolivia and Brazil. So I'm going to get into the story because I think it's really fascinating. In the mid-70s, when this was first discovered, it really set the gemstone world on its side. Nobody had seen anything like this before, where you had amethyst and citrine exhibiting in the same crystal. And so I remember selling it on some of the shopping channels in the late 80s, early 90s. And most of the material back then that we were dealing with was really, really affordable. So let me tell you a little about the history of the stone and what happened. So it was discovered in the 1970s, as I said, in Brazil, and found in bigger quantities in Bolivia. So it was, again, getting between $6 and $30 per carat. Now, when I give you that kind of price range, that's talking wholesale prices. Like you go to the Tucson Gem Show and you're buying it either in the rough or in a cut stone. Depending on the colors that you see and the clarity of that stone, it might be $6 a carat. It might be $30 a carat. $30 a carat if you're getting a 10 carat stone, that's $300. So obviously it was a pretty dear and pretty expensive stone, and really kind of a collector's stone at that point. And then in, I think it was 1980 or 1981, and this is always the dead giveaway. All of a sudden in the Tucson Gem Show in 1980, it was showing up in much larger amounts. Like all of a sudden, where did all of this come from? So all of the rumors started to circulate that this has to be some sort of treated material to have that much available. So the prices started to plummet because as those rumors were going on, people were starting to prove those rumors to be true. Like people that worked with gemstones and citrine and amethyst in the past said, well, we know that we can heat amethyst to create citrine. In fact, that's where most of your citrine comes from. It's heated amethyst that doesn't have a good enough color to be a top grade purple. They heat it, I think it's about 850 degrees Celsius. I don't know why that sticks in my mind, but they heat it, and then you can have a beautiful citrine. Well, also, they discovered that you can irradiate citrine and turn citrine purple and make it into an amethyst. Again, they're all quartz, they're all genuine gemstones, but there is a way to treat them. And that's what happened. And when word got out about this, the prices completely plummeted. It was suddenly persona non grata. It was, this, oh my gosh. So it went from that $6 to $30 a carat, and it plummeted maybe 2/3 to between $2 and $10 a carat because there was just so much of it around. And even back then, I think in the 80s, there was still a stigma about, oh my gosh, I want a natural stone, a heated stone. That's some sort of hanky-panky. What's going on? They're heating the stone. Well, of course, we know differently today. In fact, almost every gemstone show that I've ever done, whether it's here on YouTube or on shopping channels over 30 years, I said that almost all gemstones are treated in some way, shape, or form. In fact, probably 95% of all gemstones get some sort of treatment to improve the appearance of the gemstone. We know that, we accept that. You can buy sapphires these days for thousands of dollars that have been heat treated. Obviously, tanzanite, almost all of the tanzanite out there is heat treated. In fact, when they find it in the rough, it's called zoisite, and you can hold it in one direction and see some purple. You'd hold it in another direction, see some blue. Another direction, you might see brown altogether, so you have to have a lapidary that knows how to cut it. But the point is, people are becoming more and more familiar and comfortable with gemstones that have been heat treated or irradiated. So now it's really a much more acceptable practice, and so we've seen a resurgence in the popularity of that ametrine again. Once again, I have a couple of real-life examples. I'm going to show you some. These are Judy's personal collection. You can see the purple, you can see the yellow, but it's much more accepted. And what really happened over the history of the stone is it not only is making a resurgence, it's become really a darling of like artisans, like those who are lapidaries that want to do really interesting cuts and show those different colors in a different way. A lot of award-winning designs have come out of ametrine now, or if you're, an artist, this is something that's become very collectible. So it's no longer shunned. In fact, it's really become a darling in the gemstone business. Now, I also want to say one last parting shot on this. I really do love this gemstone, but it's a much more affordable alternative to, let's say, another mixed stone like they call it bicolor tourmaline, or especially when you see kind of that red to green in that same stone. That would be like the watermelon tourmaline, really expensive. This is a much more more affordable variety. Now, one other last caution. What's the best kind to get? I remember on shopping channels, even though this is treated, you can't always get a perfect 50-50 split, which would be ideal. If you could look at like an emerald cut, east-west, and about one half of it was the citrine color, the other half was the amethyst color, well, that would be perfect. But it doesn't work that way. Even when you're heating something, and I think that heat treatments, you need to understand this. The potential for color has to exist in the stone. In other words, you can't take a bunch of sapphires and heat them up and have them all look like the crown jewels or cashmere sapphires. It doesn't work that way. If it doesn't have that something in it that the heat brings it out, you'll never have a beautiful stone. So likewise, when they're doing the ametrine and they're heat treating it or irradiating that crystal, they don't know what they're going to get. And more importantly, if you were going to take what it did and try and cut it completely 50-50, you're going to waste a lot of rough to do so. One final thought, no matter what the heat that we're talking about, whether it's stabilizing turquoise or whether it's heating or a sapphire or irradiating blue topaz, that costs money and it adds a cost to the stone. So it's not something that you should ever be ashamed of if you're getting something that is a heat treated, irradiated, or in the case of turquoise, a stabilized stone. Well, I think I've covered all that I can remember on ametrine, so I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If you did, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I know sometimes people hear the word subscribe and they get nervous because they think it's going to cost something. It's absolutely free. I do these just for you, but it does help me move up the charts. I'm getting more and more subscribers each week, so thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. But that allows me to do more of these videos for you. All right, if you have any questions that you have, send them in on the comments section, and I will try to get to your questions in a future lesson. So thank you so much for watching. Remember, every single Saturday at 10 in the morning, on Saturday mornings is when the next Eastern time, so when the next lesson will drop. Thank you for watching, everybody. I really do appreciate it.